Hi, I'm Jeff Gonzalez, president of Trident Concepts, and today I want to talk to you about some gun safety etiquette. First, let's review the gun safety rules. Rule number 1, all guns are always loaded. Rule number 2, always keep the muzzle pointed in a safe direction. Rule number 3, always keep your trigger finger on the home position until your sights are confirmed on target. And rule number 4 is know your target and what's beyond. That's the rule that I want to talk to you guys about right now. So when we're talking about know your target, obviously we're talking about positive target identification. In a variety of circumstances, it may be difficult for you to see, lighting conditions, various angles, all of other types of conditions that might make it difficult for you to actually see the target. So obviously you want to make sure that you know what you're shooting at. You're not going to be shooting at shadows, you're not shooting at scary noises, you're not shooting at anything that you can't positively identify. So outside of that, let's talk about it from a training perspective, because many of the gun safety rules that we use are designed around real-world settings, but also to help support training. So here, if you notice over my shoulder, you'll see that our baffles have a tremendous amount of strikes in them. And one of the reasons behind that is that, no, people are not purposely aiming at the baffles, but what they're doing is that they're using targets and they're positioning targets without really knowing what's beyond. So remember, the rule is know your target and what's beyond. So why don't we take a step back behind the firing line, let's look at some target positioning so that we can talk about where that projectile will end up once it passes through the target. So now we're behind the firing line, we're going to take a look at some target positioning, and again, knowing what's beyond. So if you look at this target, it's placed at about the 5-yard line, and it looks like everything would be good. And typically, when shooters are shooting, they're going to be fine. But it's when, after they've shot this target up, that they want to apply the self-adhesive targets, and now they're putting the self-adhesive targets in various positions around the target. So what ends up happening, imagine putting a self-adhesive target below the wording, "Do you need training?" So now if you can imagine that your projectiles, if they're going into that self-adhesive target, are going actually below where the backstop is. So they're actually hitting the ground and then ricocheting up into the backstop, which again, what we want to do is keep all of our projectiles moving towards the backstop and not the sidewalls, the baffles, or the floor. So that would be an area where you want to try to be cognizant of. If you're going to put self-adhesive targets on a target after you've shot it, be cognizant of the backstop, where those rounds are going. Let's take a look at another target. All right, here's another popular target that we have here. You'll notice how it's got 2 large bullseyes. Top bullseye, totally fine. Everything's copacetic there. You can shoot at that as much as you want. This target is put at about the 7-yard line. Now, if you want to shoot at the bottom bullseye, which totally is fine, what you're probably going to want to think about doing is pull the target in, turn the target upside down, push it back out to the 7. Now the unshot bullseye is at the top where the rounds are going back into the backstop, no problems whatsoever. All right, let's take a look at one more target. All right, so this target here, everything is copacetic as long as you keep your field of fire going straight into the backstop. But every now and then what we'll see is we'll see some shooters that maybe are not, they're struggling with their marksmanship. They want to try to improve their position. So what they end up doing is they use the table to try to stabilize their shooting platform. So what they do is they drop their profile down. When they drop their profile down, as they aim, they're actually aiming up. So while the round is still probably hitting high in the chest, it's going through the chest and into the top or the baffles of the back, the baffles behind the target. So when you change your profile, you need to be sure that once the round goes through the target, that it's not hitting the baffles, that instead it's hitting the backstop. All right, so these are just some simple observations that we hope that you'll start to apply during your practice sessions when you come to whether it's an indoor range or even an outdoor range. Think about your backstop, know your target and what's beyond. All right, I'm Jeff Gonzalez. If you have any questions or comments, please post them down below. We'd love to hear from you. Until then, take care and stay safe.